Okay, so can we start? Vishnu, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. You guys already know Vishnu, right? Vishnu has been a very core member of Eduthon. He has been helping us with creating the learning phase as well. And he was there for one of the coffee conversation also. So he is the founder of Humanity Express. He is into curriculum and basically how to integrate nature in curriculum. So it's very interesting thing which Vishnu works on, like integration of curriculum and then how to nurture curiosity of a child and how to naturalize curriculum. So I would won't take much of your time, Vishnu. You start with the session,
Sure.
um, and let me know if you need any help.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. Um, we'll make this a little interactive. Uh, can people keep continuously typing? Hi. Can you see me? Am I visible? Am I audible?
Yeah, you are,
Cool.
and
Okay.
people are typing.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. So, I'll just share something with you. And can you, Sharvari, can you help me with screen sharing?
Yeah, done.
Okay, cool. So, guys, I'm a naturalist and an educator. Okay, so I basically look at how to reconnect people with nature through in different ways, in the most natural way possible. And I take this to other educators and schools as well. Okay, in short, and I'll just share my screen. Okay, are you able to see my screen? Hold on, something. Oh, okay. I just move this here. Yes. Okay. Sorry, takes a while. Sorry. Okay, so let's quickly start with today's topic. So, curricula, life-centric learning, community participation in learning, and the contexts. Um, what happened to this? Okay. So everyone can see this aquarium, right? So can you tell me if you can see the invisible message here? Do you can you get a particular message here with regards to our topic today? What do you think this aquarium is for? Why am I showing you this aquarium? Restrictions, Mayur restrictions. Okay, that's another way of looking at it. Anybody else? Representation of the sea in a minimalized way. Okay. A fish thinks that the water itself is its world. Okay. Good. Okay. Survive within. Okay. Great. So I'll put across what I look at this as. Okay. So what I would see is I would see a framework, a transparent medium, another medium inside that, and the life forms. Now, can you connect it to what we are going to talk about today? but actually the world gets much bigger. Yes. Okay, cool. Can you connect this, what I said, to the topic at hand? Yeah, I'll come to that. Thinking outside the box, I'll come to that, Ayush. Okay, I'm saying that when I see the aquarium, I'm seeing a framework, a transparent part of it is transparent. There's a medium inside, and there are fish and plants in there, right? So can you connect that to what we are going to speak right now? The topic, the curricula, the learning, curricular structure. Yes, excellent. National Curriculum Framework. Oh, sorry, framework, sorry, not framework. Curricular pedagogy, teacher and students. Excellent. So what this would represent for me is that the curricula would be like the framework, a little rigid, not too flexible, a little rigid, but there are parts of it that are transparent enough, right? And the medium in there is what we are looking at, like you rightly said, the methods and the content. So that is equally transparent enough, right? And let's take the fish and the plants to be the stakeholders. Okay, let's take the fish to be the stakeholders, right? So for a goldfish, the aquarium itself is a big world, right? So here, while we look at this, do we need a slightly rigid framework? Question number one. Do we require a slightly rigid framework? Yes, no, you can type it there. Why does it need to be transparent? Anybody typing, still typing? We need flexible framework, okay? As it is for all, okay? Transparent so that it is clear to the outside world. Okay, so if you are the fish, you will see this as the whole world, right? But you definitely need a slightly solid framework in which you can have a lot of things flexible, okay? So the fish are the stakeholders, and they can swim however, wherever they want in the content and the methods that you are adding in there, right? So are they are they their movement in our control, or can they move anywhere? You should know what is happening with them and what can be done. But if you're standing outside, you're looking at it from an outside perspective. How can you help them? You need the transparency for helping them out. Now, if there's a lot of dirt, you need to clean it, correct? So it's limited to the aquarium, but from the inside, it is upon them. Yes, absolutely. So whatever content and methods that you're going to use need to be flexible enough where in whichever direction they move, they should feel comfortable. They should feel everything is the same. But the outside framework should be a little solid. Okay. We all agree upon this. So a little bit there. But yes, there's one more point that I think Ayush put across, saying that it's a little restricted. It's a box, and we need to go beyond that box. Yes, that is right. But if you're a goldfish, that box itself is your world. If you're a shark, then that box is too small. That is true. Okay, but to do that, to fix the solid framework and the flexibility of the water inside, right? Fish can move around freely, but I doubt if students are given that freedom. So, okay, so here is a point, interesting. So fish can move around freely, but I doubt that our students are given that freedom. So my question to you is, why is it that we are using the words children or students only? Can we use a general word like learners? All of us are learners, right? Remove all the tags that we have. We are all learners. Okay, let's take it from there. So now in front of you, you have this picture. Can you see the picture? Yeah. So to get that flexibility in the framework, we need to understand where everything is interconnected, right? So if you take in all different subjects or different aspects of your life, there is some invisible link between them, right? We need to understand that invisible link first before you start putting in anything. So anybody can give me a link between, let's say, language and biology? Just one link. Just give me a link between language and biology. Or someone wanted to think outside the box, no? So we'll come to the questions. Don't answer the questions. Shilpa ma'am is saying language itself. So you mean to say language, you mean to say biology is language itself? Biology and language both make extensive use of names. Yeah. So Ayush and Shilpa ma'am both are right. Biology itself is 50% Greek and Latin, so it's language. Similarly, now you can look at any other subject or any topic in that subject, and you will definitely see that they are directly or indirectly linked with each other, right? So this type of interlink, or the invisible link, as I would call it, needs to be understood by everybody first before we start applying anything or we start thinking of finding solutions to anything. By the way, who do you think is at the center of the web? Is it only you or me, or humans at the center, or would it be nature at the center, or would it be the whole of the universe at the center? English, okay. Desire to learn. Desire to learn about what? So the learners are at the center. Okay. Exactly. Rishikesh got it right. It is nature at the center. Okay, because nature, I don't know how many of you have observed, but nature has all these topics that are there in front of you. It's all interconnected and applied already in nature, right? So basically, I would put nature at the center, and Rishikesh has also put nature at the center. If you're looking at a larger scale, it's of course the cosmos, right? So what can we learn about the, what can we learn about this web of the cosmos? That is something that you need to answer for yourself. Should learning and teaching be integrated like this web? Should learning and teaching be integrated? Yes, yes. Okay, good. We are all on the same lines. So how long do you think this type of learning would take? And its pros and cons. Give me at least 3 points. Learning the context, not content. Okay. Excellent. Ayush says lifelong. This type of learning would take lifelong. Okay. Okay, very good. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of this? If it takes lifelong, are we ready to, invest in that much of time and effort? Or do we want push button? Like today, we are all clickety click click. So do we want push button type of results, or can we slow down? And yes, absolutely. It can begin right away, right now, and it can go lifelong, and it's an yes, it's an ongoing process. And but are we ready? Are we really ready to take it slow but take it steadily across the years? A part of it can be applied. Yeah, obviously you're not going to, we don't know the whole thing, yes, but we can start right now and take it as far as possible from our end. And then what do? We leave it to the next generations. Okay, what has happened to this? Yeah. So when it comes to, sorry, for real life situations, things decide itself, providing holistic view. Yes. Okay, so when it comes to curricular learning methods and teaching, I would say that I would see this as just three pillars of um, concrete strength for this, right? One aspect is the nature, which is your internal and external nature of the stakeholder. The second one is the nurture, which is the belief culture, upbringing at home with the family or even the geographic location. And the third one is technology, using various techs to enhance one's learning abilities. So technology has been spoken about a lot, and a lot of us use a lot of technology. But the problem that I'm sure all of you would agree with me is that we bank a lot more on the technology nowadays. At least till now, I've been seeing people more banking on the technology. And thanks to COVID, we are now understanding that nurture is equally important. We are still now, we are, thinking of our beliefs systems, our family issue, workings and things like that, right? So but we still don't look at nature in that way. Right. So what is nature? Permanent retention, what's that? Pros. Okay, cool. So there are two aspects to nature. When I say nature, it means the internal nature, which is what comes naturally to you, what type of a learner you are, who are you from within, right? And the external nature is your surroundings, and I would more bank on mother nature. Okay, because in these 12 years of interacting with people and in this career, I have observed that looking at mother nature, just observing mother nature, simplifies half of your problems, and so it gives you a lot of solutions. So I'll be talking to you a little more on this. So here, what happens when you have nature exposure? Nowadays, we find a lot of kids who are being made to sit inside indoors with a lot of apps and a lot of technology and all that. So now you can go through this. It's quite self-explanatory. I'll give you a minute. You can go through this. What happens when you have nature exposure? What happens to your learning ability? What happens to your learning context? What are the learning outcomes that you actually get over time? Of course, this is not within a short span of time. It will be over time. So if I take a fourth grader and I work with that fourth grader from day one with nature exposure and all those components, the learning outcome, I will see it properly by the time he is in 9th grade or 10th grade. By then, he would have had academic achievements, personal development, and there'll definitely be some amount of leadership qualities in him or her, that we can see. So if you can see on this nature exposure part, I have circled preschools. Okay. So why I have circled preschools and put a star is that I believe that this should not be restricted to preschools. This can continue to higher grades. How many of you agree with me in that? That nature-based learning or curricula can be extended to higher grades, right? Yeah, cool. So, and I'm sure all of you, 1 minute, where's this? Okay, so coming back to the invisible link, is it possible to have an integrated and natural learning system, a method or a system in a populous country like India? Let's answer that question first. Is it possible to take in this system in a highly populated country like India? Excuse me when I drink some water. Okay, agreed. Yes, yes. Okay. Would a nature-based schooling be safe enough? Okay. Ayush has put in a very good question there. Would nature-based schooling be safe enough? Ayush, I'll tell you something about India. India's geographical location and its biodiversity are one of the safest spots. Okay. If you look at Australia, you look at US, you look at parts of Europe, you have poisonous plants, you have venomous animals. You have to keep looking out for what you touch, and where you go, anything. But still, across Europe, you have nature-based learning, nature-based schooling. Okay, even in US, you have some parts of Australia, you have here. When everything is actually really good, safe, and sound, we don't have. We used to have in the ancient days, but it has been contorted, distorted. We know what the story is over time. Um, yes, so this India is actually a very good space to very good location to start nature-based schooling, okay, or natural schooling, as I would also put it. So, can you explain natural learning a bit more? Sure. So, see, natural learning is, I would say, comes in two parts. Okay. So, one part is something that comes naturally to you. Like, what type of a learner are you? Something that there's a particular method in which you learn that strikes you naturally, right? So, you gravitate towards that. You learn it on by that, right? So, for me, I'll take my example. For me, I am a naturalist right from birth. Like nature has always I've always connected with nature. So for me, I learned so many things directly from nature. I learned patterns, designs. I climbed trees. I learned a lot more about insects, a lot more about trees. I also got to know that in a huge tree, each leaf is different. It's even the designs. There's a minute difference even in the designs of the leaf. Each leaf is different. So all that is that's the way that I learned, by looking at observing insects, observing birds, how they fly, what they do in their daily lives, things like that. The other part is learning from and through nature, right? So taking people out there, like something as simple as I'll show you in the next slide. We'll go to the next slide when we talk about learning through nature. Okay. Your high natural experience looking at multiple theory. Yeah, we'll come to that. We'll come to multiple intelligence a little few slides lower. Yeah. But can we say that every child would have inclination towards natural learning? Yeah, I'll come to that. Hold on, hold on. Okay, so is it possible to integrate? Yes. But then in a population of like India, when you are fixing, you're looking at the invisible links and fixing a curriculum based on the type of learners, how many opinions are you going to take? We are a billion or a little more, I guess, a little more strong. So how are we going to, how many opinions are we going to take? Any idea? If we have schools that are small in size. Huh. Okay. Important point there. Liz has put up an important point there. Yeah. So how many opinions are we going to take in a population of a billion strong? Okay, some other questions that all that can be towards equity. Part of the curricula can be kept common. Can't be a number, but district wise can be taken. Yes, very good. Number should be flexible enough to accommodate and assimilate all opinions. Yeah. So who's this? Dadich. Indrodia. Okay. So very important point there. District wise, it can be taken. Yes, because you have a common mindset in a district. So we can take some representatives, get to know their needs and problems and work on that as per their requirements. Yes. Local curricula can be given space included. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we need to take some representatives from certain districts and then we put it across. Absolutely. So, but then the questions that I would put across generally would be, why are we doing this? Why do we need to educate ourselves and our children? And the questions I get is, where do we start from? Do we start with the people, certain questions, or do we start with a geographical location? And what do we include? What do we include? Any particular topics, or do we start with anything, everything? And of course, who do we include? Do we include everybody, or do we include only certain layers of people? The question I would put across is, do we really also need to teach anything per se? But let us take who to include. Who do we include in the stakeholders? We have management people, we have principals, we have teachers, we have children, and we have parents. So do we include all 5 of them, or do we include only 1 or 2 of them? Education is real liberation. Education is real liberation. Okay. Question 2. Why are we doing this? For employment. Okay. Shreya says children and parents. That it says all 5. Yes, absolutely. So when it comes to having all 5 stakeholders, how do we go about fixing the curricula with all 5 of these stakeholders? Does one take up the ownership, or do all 5 have the ownership ability? And gradually move towards policymakers. Yeah. Oh, sorry, we forgot the government as well. Yeah. Policymakers. Yeah. Okay, but we'll take these 5. And these 5 can influence the 6th one together, right? So does one take the ownership, or do all of them take the ownership? One takes up the ownership and adds, others add to it. Okay. Rishikesh. Okay, so Rishikesh, how about co-developing a curriculum, like how we are doing right now? I'm doing something from my end, you're doing something from your end, Dadich is doing something from their end, Madhurima is doing something from their end. So, so the needs of each other give different participation and this level of participation. Ownership ratio varies. Right. Okay. So what do you mean by ownership ratio varies, Madhurima? So you mean to say the management, because they are on the top, they will have more, they will take more, and the students who are at the bottom who may take less ownership. Is that so? Or the teachers, some teachers don't want to take ownership at all. We have all encountered that. Some parents definitely don't want to take any ownership. We have encountered that as well. So where do we start from? Do we start in a particular geographical location? Or do we start everywhere? Okay, at the national level, we need a standard curriculum, but at the local level, the schools in a district can be given the space to design their curricula. Yes, depends on what we are developing, but ownership on apart from all the stakeholders is necessary. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, got it. Yeah. So Liz is saying that we need to have a standard curricula at a national level, but at a local level, schools and in the district can be given space to design their curricula. Now you connect it back to the fish tank. So what did I tell you about the framework? Now can you connect this to the fish tank? Yeah. Do we really need to fix a curricula? Interesting. Good. So do we really need to fix a curricula? All of us are learning almost the same things, right? So we can fix in a little framework, and whatever goes in can be flexible. You can remove it. You can put something new back, right? We should start from a mind of a preschooler. That's a good way to start from scratch. Okay. Ayush is putting some really good points here. Okay, you should start from the mind of a preschooler. Now, okay, I was going to go forward with something, but I have an idea here. So, Ayush, along with the rest of you, can you please close your eyes for a minute and think yourself to be 5 years old or even 4 years old? Okay, what would you want to do at that stage? You want to play? Yeah, absolutely. You want to play. So, what are you fixing in the mind of a preschooler, Ayush? And do we really need to actually, are we really bothered about fixing something in the mind of a preschooler, or is it that in between stage that we really need to think of, where a lot of absorption and everything is happening, but direction is not happening? What do we need to look at? Absolutely. A preschooler here may not even have much of an ownership. But if you're talking about, let's say, a 12-year-old kid, a 14-year-old kid, a 16-year-old kid, right? Or anybody above that, that is the time when everything is being absorbed like a sponge. But if you're not giving it any kind of direction or any option saying that, okay, you can swim anywhere around here, it's fine, you can explore there. But if you're not helping out in that phase, then preschool will not help much, no? You're burdening them by pushing them into a standard system. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly why Amruta, that's a great thing. Good question. That's exactly why I said, think of yourself as a learner. Don't put any other designation to yourself. Think of yourself as a learner and think from a point of view of a child. That is when you will actually start developing how to frame your curricula. Okay. So I'll just move on a little bit. Okay, so can we bring this type of learning back to India? India already had this type of learning, right? Under nature, through nature, with nature, all those natural processes of learning. We always have this, right? Now, why is this important? Why do we need to bring in this natural element here? Why do we need to bring this natural element here? Now we are concretizing more and more, no? Instead of that, can we have a little more nature around us? What can nature teach us? To move away from the rote learning methods, immersing in real life situation, education has been turned into a competition, yeah? To know where we are, with whom we are. Okay? there are some. Okay, this will be the next one. So you saw the, yeah. So we'll go back here. So one thing I would like to put across here is that we are all children of nature, right? We evolved from nature. We still have that nature connect. We cannot completely disconnect ourselves from nature. Absolutely. Outdoor spaces can be more relaxing, yes. See here, we see in this blue box, able to concentrate, less stressed, more engaged, calmer, quieter, warmer, more cooperative, right? So all this, so when you, simplest thing would be when you have peace and you have the space, you can work wonders. Okay, just 2 points: peace and space. You need that, and peace and space is already available within nature, right? Okay, so we come to the next part, which is nurture. Now, COVID has brought us all of us together back home, and now we are thinking of our home environment and what the school was, and why didn't we say anything before? What the hell were we thinking of? And then we look at our belief systems again, and we look at how to, how do we change this and things like that. So this is nurture. Okay, so it has never been a question of nature versus nurture. It's always been nature plus nurture. That is what gets us to a holistic development, right? So here I just put on the points: parents, grandparents, relatives, friends, and for family culture, how open-minded you are, how tolerant you are, how accommodative you are. Now, as educators or as students, we may be a little thinking in a very different way, but our home environment may be a lot more restrictive, right? Our school environment may also be a lot more restrictive, and depending on our culture, our belief systems in our family, in our ancestral lineage and all that, we come to know how open-minded the family is, or how tolerant we are, how accommodative we are. But can we change the outlook? Can we change this outlook through children and education? Is something that we need to concentrate on when we are fixing a thing like a curricula. So we need to work backwards in the case of nurture, where the school and their intent has to change. Then we bring in the parents, because we said we are going to involve all 5 stakeholders uh, uh, as owners, right? To take up the ownership. So when we bring them together and we co-create something, we can change this nurture outlook. This will be again a lot more natural now. It'll be again not only nature connected. People will come up to each other and start sharing with each other and looking at each other the way they see themselves, right? So that the type of bonding changes, and therefore we can change the outlook. But again, are we ready to invest that much time and effort? Science was ancient. Yeah. So ancient India had all this, and my question to you would be is that we need to do something that would at least come closer to what they had, right? Can we? That's why I asked you the question: can we bring that type of integrated and natural learning back into India? So when it comes to community participation, I would say there are 3 parts. So one is your mind, your mental status, your physical status, and your technological status. So you are mentally aware, you're physically aware, and you use the you're technologically aware also, and you know how to use it, where to use it. So right now we are using only tech, but many of us don't know. We are not mentally either active or aware or alert. We definitely, most of us have become insensitive. Okay. Physically, yeah, thanks to COVID, now we are physically even less active, and therefore less alert. Are we really aware of ourselves? I don't know. That's something that everyone needs to question for themselves. So once all those three pillars of nature, nurture, and technology, and you use your mental capacities properly, your physical capacities properly, and your technological capacities properly, only then we can develop as a species holistically, right? So we really need to bond with things that we think are not required, okay, that we are actually moving away from, and we really need to move a little away from what we think it is most required for us. I'm not saying technology is bad or anything, but we really need to know where to use it and how much to use it. That's the only thing. We are banking too much of technology. But coming from a very nature perspective background, I would say if you just look out, you observe even one tree through the year, okay, just one tree through the year, the amount of learning you will get, you will start applying it in your daily life, you'll see the change, like that, you'll really see the change like that. Ancient India, okay, sorry, I missed out a couple of chats, I guess. Natural learning provides all-round development instead of prioritizing something. Yes, okay. Schools still focus on completion of textbook content. So when you are fixing the curricula, now you have to see how important is the textbook, how important is written matter, is it restrictive, is it what is it? Can we bring back nature integrated? We can bring back nature, okay, at least for preschool levels, and gradually move up to structured system as per present requirements. Then nature-based education can resume again at university levels. So Ayush, what I'm saying is you flip that part, okay? You see, you have experiential learning and natural learning when it comes to preschool. Like we all know it. You have Montessori, you have Waldorf, you have Steiner, you have Regina, all those people, right? They already started all that. That is okay. But that actually should be extended up to middle school and even high school. You cannot have what I would call as mini nuclear reactors, okay? Those children of the in-between age, between 8-10 years and 15 years, are all mini nuclear reactors. You can't keep them, holding them in one place and having a very structured system around them. You should get them to do stuff. It's not like, you should not contain them. Allow them to be free. Allow them to expend the energy. They will start giving us energy. Otherwise, now what we have, as per what I understood of what you're saying, is if we structure it around these kids, then what are we doing? We are losing our energy, and they are not losing out their energy, and they are not gaining any energy at all. It's going to decay like uranium, right? It's going to decay. And one day there's going to be an explosion. Now you see in 10th grade, somebody had killed themselves, somebody killed each other, all those things. So let's, bring about complete change, but increasing field trip sessions would be a small step in that direction. Absolutely. So, yes, Manwa. Okay, great. So what Manwa is saying, and I have forgotten the other person. I think it was Amrita. No. Okay, anyways. So continuing to what Manwa is saying, and the textbooks now need to be restructured in such a way that they have a lot more trips. Okay, it can be local trips also. It can be just going to the museum and coming back, but not just one-time trips. You go to the museum, you go and learn one thing, pakka. Then we can keep doing that. Now, if we say, let's say something like history. So can you go to the nearby fort? Can you understand every aspect of that nearby fort in an integrated manner? So you're not only learning about history, you're going to be learning about architecture, you're going to be learning about mathematics, and so many other things like that. So can we do that? We can increase, like Manwa said, we can increase the number of field trips. Obviously we cannot bring in about a complete change right now. It will take time. As I said, if I take a 4th grade kid, by the time he's 10th grade, a lot of things would have changed, and we would kind of be like, okay, he's at one level now, we can leave him or her there. and they will go ahead with that. Right? So why I'm saying to what Ayush is saying, why I said that we need to flip that and have a lot more activity, experiential based learning, like how preschoolers are having for the middle school and the slightly higher school, is that, you know, when they come to 10th, they don't know what to do in 11th and 12th and further on, right? So that confusion will be gone when they understand, when they integrate, when they understand where it's been applied, why they need to learn, and all those things in that stage itself, when they are absorbing everything, right? So once that is done, you won't need so many textbooks. You will have enough number of activities and trips, and then by the time they're in 10th, it's clear for them. It's clear for them. I want to do commerce because I like doing commerce, not because I hate physics, right? So all that will escape. So yes, somebody was talking about multiple intelligences. So question for you guys is, what type of a learner are you? You can just put it in one line. Dominantly, yeah? It's all, there'll be one dominant learning capacity, and the other ones they're always there with all of us. Okay, it's just that one dominant. So what type of a learner are you? Shilpa ma'am, with respect to multiple intelligences, self-learner. Okay, self-smart. Okay. Logical, mathematical. People smart. Word smart. Okay. Naturalistic and interpersonal. Great. What is similar to logical reasoning? Musical and visual spatial. Yeah. So now, keeping all this in mind, can you come up with your plan, with your statements, and do you know how to proceed with all this in mind? But I actually rely more on thinking and imagination. Yes, Ayush, but you will have one dominant trait. Are you good with people? Are you good? You know yourself very well, or you're good with music? You're inclined to math or logical reasoning. Excuse me. Musical, visual, spatial, intrapersonal. Excellent, excellent. So with all this in mind, if we have to, let's say, pull in this into one area, one plan, can you come up with something? What about people who are reflective? Learn from experience. Okay, good question. So, don't we all have experiences? Don't we all learn from experiences? We don't reflect on those. That is a different thing. But being reflective is not really a trait in a person. You will have to consciously do it. Most of us are reflective, by the way. And all of us learn from experience. It's just that whatever we experience, we don't reflect on it till a very long time, and then we'll be like, oh yeah, that happened 10 years ago. Oh, right, okay, now I get it, and then we go ahead.
Yeah, but there are people who, just reflect on their experiences to learn, or they learn from others' experiences. So if somebody has gone through something and they learn from others' learnings also.
Correct. That everybody does. That's what I'm saying. That comes naturally to all of us.
Okay, fine.
That comes naturally to all of us. In fact, a good point that you brought up, because this is one more thing that people really need to think about. That you look at others and learn, you look at your own experiences and learn, but the idea is to keep reflecting what you're doing, what have you learned. That's why I said I put up this, saying that you have to be mentally active, aware, alert, and sensitive.
Okay. So somebody's asking, Shweta is asking, what is existential learning?
What is existential learning? Existential intelligence.
Existential intelligence. I think it is more about spirituality. It's not.
Existential intelligence is
Yeah, so yogis speak about that, right?
so there again, so there you are being sensitive enough to all living beings.
Acha.
You're being sensitive enough to all living beings. You're what do you say? You're acknowledging their presence as much as yours. You're giving them equal importance as much as you do for yourself and your own life. I'm telling you in very basic and short terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liz says, I would like to know more about integrated learning. Manva
Yes.
says, that does come naturally, but the degree to which we apply is different.
What comes naturally?
I think
The reflective
the
and the experience.
experience part, yeah.
Right. So reflecting, yes. See, that's what I'm saying. So there are so many things that come to us naturally that we tend to avoid. Right. So we need to look at that, which is why I said you have to look at your inner nature, who you are.
Right.
What is it that clicks for you? You have to look at that. And then you integrate that with what you observe within nature. That will get you I'm not getting the right words, but that'll make you a very strong person, basically.
Yeah, right. Vishnu, I can, if you permit me, can I talk about my experience here?
Sure.
So I'm just saying that, okay, what Vishnu said, I completely agree with that. Saying that you need to understand first about what kind of learner you are, and mainly how you learn, what is your inner nature. If you understand your nature, then it becomes really easy for you to, find out the way you learn and figure out all the surrounding things. Like when I used to read from textbooks, when I used to, just read my engineering books or something, at that time I didn't realize that, okay, I had some more potential or something else than just reading engineering books. But then when I started talking to people, when I started learning through experience, or paying some more attention to that trait of my personality, then it came very naturally to me, and that's the way I actually started learning. So it is more about who you are, understanding first that who you are, and then coming up with your style of learning, maybe.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So Liz says, as educators, we need to incorporate learning experiences that take care of all kinds of learners. Yeah. So even if you have a large population, you have those certain kind of learners everywhere, right? So that's why I said you need to know yourself, what comes naturally to you, what type of a learner you are. Then you will automatically say that, okay, if I am this type of a learner, I will learn, say, X thing like this. So other people like me will definitely relate to it. They may not literally learn it in the same way, but they will relate to it. So let me fix something that can help learners like me. Now, somebody else may be learning in a different way. Now, they will fix that. Now, can you both get together and fix it on a larger framework? Yes, you can. So as we include different types of learners together, your whole setup, your whole curricula, your whole plan will start piecing like a jigsaw puzzle. Automatically, everything will be all inclusive. You don't need to bother too much of saying, oh, I need to think about that type of learner, this type of learner. Not necessary. You can start with yourself. Start where you are, who you are, and collaborate with other people. It will work. Getting the impression that style of learning has determined influence on. Perhaps the definition of curriculum needs to be restated. Okay, perhaps the definition of curriculum needs to be restated for better understanding of what's being discussed. Yeah. So, 1 minute, I'll just get back to quickly get, oh, what's this? Okay, I'll get back to this picture here, this invisible link. Where is that? Where is that? Shit. Okay. Arey Baba. Okay, so when I say integrated learning, so first thing is to understand that now we have all these different subjects, right? We have all biology, math, economics, business, all these different subjects that we have. And as the child goes from preschool to high school, we are differentiating more and more and more. Now, what we do in class or in a general setup till now is that we just differentiate and we leave it at that. It's kind of goes at a dead end, right? So when it goes at a dead end, the child doesn't know what to do with it. Half the time the teacher doesn't know what to do with it. They just say, okay, we finish off with the textbook, we finish off with this and be done with it. You write the exam. Now, if we remove that whole concept of writing for the exam part of it, and we look at just the subjects as a whole, right? So if we actually delve a little more into the subjects, we'll come to understand that biology, economics, business, physics, chemistry, math, they are interconnected somewhere, right? Maybe directly, maybe indirectly through something else. Okay. So at this point of time, I think I'll better take an example over here. Like for example, in physics, we learn about light. We learn about properties of light and colors and all those things. Now, can that be connected with chemistry? Can that be connected with biology? Can we co-create one single topic about light itself that you learn as a physical concept, but you connect it also with chemistry and biology? So instead of having, let's say, for example, instead of having the light topic taken by a physics teacher separately, then a biology teacher separately, and then the chemistry teacher takes it indirectly somewhere else, can we co-create and co-teach or co-learn with the students? Can we have some sort of a research-based or a project-based learning for the students? Won't that make it much easier? So you need to understand how that biology is connected to that physics with respect to light, and how it is connected to chemistry, and how it's connected back to biology. So this is a small example that I can give. There are, like, if you look at all these subjects that are on the screen, somewhere you will get the idea that, okay, somewhere something in business, something in technology, something in visual arts, it's all connected. Somewhere it's connected. You may need to kind of dwell on it for a while and allow it to, soak in. But then you will eventually find out that, yes, okay, this is connected to this through that, or directly, whatever. But you need to understand this. If you don't understand this, then applicability of learning something in your daily school days, if you don't know, then obviously the question will come up some point of time, right? Why are we learning this? I don't even know what to do this after getting out of school or after finishing off this particular year. So can we bring it down to the center, which is nature, and you're a part of nature, so you're also there in the center. So nature has actually used all these concepts, all these topics, and has already integrated it, and it's already applied it in daily life, right? So can we look at that, and can we look at integrating this? Can we find those links by looking at nature? Can we find those links by doing a little more research by ourselves, and also connecting it to what comes naturally to us? So the piece and the space first for us, then we'll automatically find the connections. We'll look at it in nature, we'll reinforce that connection, and then we can take it forward. If we don't know where to apply it, then there's no point in telling other people, or kids are even, they'll pick up real fast also. And you don't need to actually tell kids so much, right? They'll just look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, and they'll do it. It's not a big deal. So theme-based curricula. Yeah, you can have theme-based curricula. So many times it happens that out of say 10 teachers, only half would be willing to take this approach. Are we sure to target all kinds of learners then? So, okay, I'll tell you a quick short story. So when I finished college and I got out and I was looking at what to do, and I remembered that this type of learning is what was within me when I was in, I guess, 6th grade, 7th grade, right? So from then on, I have been fighting with my teachers to say that, sir, you have taken light topic, and the next hour, madam is taking I. So can you please correlate with each other and put it as one common topic and let us all learn it together? But that was obviously that didn't happen. I was sent to the principal's office, and the principal agreed with me, but the teachers didn't. So after coming out of college, I very naturally, like everybody else, I said, no, we have to do something for the next generation. We have to catch hold of the children when they are young. Let's put this integrated model for them. And one thing I realized is preschool already has that model, right? So preschool is out of the picture. They are already learning in that way, experientially and naturally. Middle school was the point where maximum damage was done. High school, they'll continue with the confusion. So I realized that however much you tell the children, it will not make any difference, because if the children are ready to learn, it's the teachers and the parents who either make or mar the children's path ahead, right? So that is when I realized that, okay, children are not the ones to be targeted. The teachers and the parents are the ones to be targeted. I mean, not that the children are not important, but children are, they're like uranium sponges, I should say. They are bubbling with energy, but they are soaking in a lot of things around them. They're just imbibing things. So what you put out, they will imbibe, and then they will show it out. But if you don't like it later on, then you can't tell them that, oh, you're doing something like this. Where did you learn this from? 10 years down the line, the child will say, 10 saal pehle tumne to kiya tha. So why are you blaming me now? So, that's when I realized that the teachers and the parents are the ones you actually need a lot more interaction with than the children. Children will imbibe it. And as I said, it comes naturally to that particular age group where they soak in a lot of things as they see it, as they do it. But teachers and parents are the ones that need a lot more tinkering up here and in here, because they are the ones who actually lost out on a lot of things, I feel. Children do fine, but we are not listening to it or recognize their learning ways. Absolutely. Actually, in preschool, 2 students are burdened with textbooks. That nowadays it's coming more and more. Even during this lockdown, teachers can design activities involving nature. Absolutely. In fact, I'm putting out so many videos every week talking about integrated and natural learning, and how you go do it. Even in this lockdown, you observe nature around you. You can do it. Yes, that's absolutely right. Preschool gets an preschoolers get an appropriate environment only in some expensive schools. No, not really. I think the best way to look at it is the government schools. Half the time the children are outside only. So can you teach them outside instead of taking them, asking each one of them to come, pulling each one of them by the collar or by the ear into the classroom, and in fact cooping them up like chicken there? Yeah, so might take them out itself. Do right there. You have a tree, sit under the tree, and you can do it. Not a problem. Expensive schools, they have a big room, they have a fancy lights and all that, but the outcome is the same. You give them something to do, and they learn from there, and you keep hitting them with the same words, and then they learn from there. But if you leave them out naturally, they'll keep running around. They'll learn from that running also, but you will see it a little later on. That's all. So modules are most of the modules for teacher training. I never thought of incorporating nature. It is most content delivery. Thank you for giving that insight. Thank you. Appropriate environment, natural environment. In expense. Oh yeah. In international schools, or like, yeah, you said expensive schools. Many of them don't. Actually, they manicure their environment. That's right. Natural environment, they manicure it. They have neatly cut lawns. They have palm trees in between, or some cycas in between, and it's like open area. You have a building up there, and you have a building here, and in between all lawns, and the children are not allowed to go on those lawns. Yeah, that is the sad part. That's true. That's the sad part. They're not even allowed to go on the lawns. They say, don't touch, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, rural schools can more explore, and some are doing also. Yeah, rural schools. See, that is the idea, right? So you start with wherever you are, get to understand the local situation, the local circumstances, the local history, the local geography, everything local. Then you go to the district level, then you go to the state level, then you go to the national level, then you take up international levels, right? So like how you have the mock UN sessions and all coming at the higher grades, like, yeah, you eventually reach there, but you take it from local. That person should know more about where that person, irrespective of whether you're from that place or not, but you need to know what has happening locally there, right from a younger age. Some expensive schools adopt nature integrated learning. Ayush, I meant that only some expensive schools adopt nature integrated learning. Absolutely not. Not at all. I've seen so many government schools who have adopted nature integrated learning much better, actually, in the more number of schools that way. Expensive schools, in fact, they don't touch upon nature. Half their biology class happens within the classroom. Imagine that. They're talking about plants and the classification and all that stuff. They're sitting in the classroom. Outside, there's so many plants. Nobody goes out to show. So it's not only the expensive schools. Expensive schools, basically they're expensive because of a particular brand name or something like that. But otherwise, then most of them don't follow this. And nature integrated learning, though, nature is not there in most of the schools. Integrated learning, some of them say integrated, but like, I'll give you one more example. I know one school which said that they follow integrated learning, but they went up to that extent of integrating learning, not only at the learning phase, they integrated subjects during exam also. They, I think there was a CBSE school. They said we follow integrated learning. The teachers had no clue what integrated learning was. So the principal just put it on them. Integrated learning, we should do it. Yes, we'll be the first school to do it and all that stuff. But teachers had no clue what to do, how to do. And when it went up to the exam, they integrated the subjects in the exam also. Now the children don't know whether they have to write for this particular subject or that particular subject. And how are they going to be graded? Nobody knows. So you should also know where to integrate, how much to integrate, right? There is that limit also is there. That limit also is there. You need to know where to differentiate, where to integrate, and keep a balance between that. Okay, Liz, one doubt. Do you think that the school management will give this type of freedom to teachers? And will the other teachers also be in sync? Yeah, that's exactly why I said all 5 stakeholders should take ownership. It's not only the management. Management takes care of only the infrastructure and the running of the admin part of the school. Done. The principal is the bridge between the admin and the education part of it. Done. The teacher is the one who's actually imparting the knowledge, or who's actually interacting with the child and the parent. Child is the one who's actually gaining something, supposed to be gaining something. So, and the parent should be like, my child is getting something. I am satisfied for whatever value I'm giving. My child is getting that much value back. Now, all these people, if you collectively take them together and bring them to a common platform, then you're automatically in sync. Then when you, that's why I said co-create. You need to co-create.
Vishnu, I have a point here.
Yeah.
Liz was saying something, no? Do you think the school management will give
Correct.
this freedom to the teachers and other teachers also be in sync? So Liz, actually, I have visited one school where they claim that they have integrated and holistic learning. School is pretty good, and I have been sharing great relationship with them as well. But the thing is, they have created textbook which has theme-based integration.
Correct.
And then if you look at their textbook, you will have, let's say the theme is plants. Okay, so plant and this now the English, Kannada, then mathematics and EVS. English and EVS is merged, and then mathematics is just taking theme of the plant. They have done mathematics in a different way, like they are just pursuing mathematical operations, nothing else. Only they say that okay, this is integration. So again, Kannada they have differently. They have their with the same theme, they are presenting certain poems and text in Kannada. So the problem here is it's fine if you integrate, but teacher training is important. And the speciality of the school is the integrated curriculum. They have made the textbook. It was supposed to be a curriculum, but maybe because training and everything was not there, so they came up with a textbook. And then the problem again happened that the textbook was created entirely by their teachers. So there are certain gaps remaining. So you can say that okay, the training is also important part, and orientation towards what is integration and how much to integrate and what cannot be integrated. That is also important question to answer. Right?
Yes. So that's what I was saying. So you need to balance out between how much to integrate, where to stop, where to differentiate, and where to get back. And you all through this, you need to make sure that you are putting out that point that your learning this is applicable in your daily life at this point of time, or over here, right? So that has to be put across as well. And like, see, if like Sharwari just pointed out, if you don't have people to interact with properly, so you don't have that constant communication and training happening, so you'll end up with again a book. Now, can many of these concepts probably you can either do it in nature or in your garden, or even if it's in your classroom. Maybe you cannot go out on that day, it's raining or whatever it is, it's in your classroom. Can you convert that text, for example, can you convert the text into something like a comic, where it is much easier and simpler and more enjoyable for children to learn?
Yeah, and
Something
I
like that.
think localization is also very important. So if you
So
say that, like in the textbook also, if you consider your local language, local names, local pictures from local local surrounding, if you can use your school students class teachers names itself in textbook, the way that school has done, it is great. It is completely relatable to their surrounding and everything, right? So the
absolutely.
students feel really good when they hold a textbook.
Yeah, even a simplest thing like what they still teach today is simplest thing is like A for apple, right? Even today they teach A for apple. But in an Indian context, in a South Indian context, maybe let's say you're in some village somewhere, okay, or a small town, you may be seeing a lot more ants. So why can't it be A for ants? That
Yeah,
local as well. You can't keep putting in something that's not relatable to us.
very
So
true, very
we
true.
need to know what our geographical location holds for us. We need to understand that first. That's why I said where you are, you start from there. Then you go region wise, then you go district wise, then you go state wise, or at least you go state wise, and then you go national, and then you go international. That's the best way to go about it. You put in a little bit each every year, and by the time you're 15, you would actually get to the international level. You'll be like, okay, there's so many things happening. Blindly copied, yeah. So and someone somebody who's from a joint family, he may not even have seen an ant. He would have seen a lot of his aunties. You can say A for auntie also, no? Simple thing. Yeah.
Oh.
So you understand from where that person is coming from, and you give that response. Get him to think A for what? Is what? Okay. Maybe in English it'll be auntie. So it's okay. A for ant, A for auntie. You need not be only A for apple. No, who said it's written in stone that A is for apple only?
Even if it is written in stone and the stone belongs to Jammu and Kashmir and not here in Karnataka.
Yeah. So exactly. No, and you would have weathered out all these years also. See, for over 500 years of A for apple, you would have weathered out also by now with all that
Yeah.
rain and snow and water. Yeah. Schooling would love to integrate, Schools would love to integrate natural learning. However, it does go down well with parents. Also, there's so much of competition. So in the market and modify. So when it comes to going well with parents, now the question is, one thing the questions and the parents need to ask is, can I leave my child to learn the way he or she can learn and grow up to do what he or she really is interested in doing? Or do I put my ideas and biases on them? Okay, because I have seen so many of my relatives, so my aunts and uncles, and they have done that to my cousins, right? So because I couldn't be an engineer, I want my son to be an engineer. Arey, that was your dream, na? Child's dream must be something else. So will I allow my child to do that? That is one thing that the parents need to ask themselves. When it comes to something like Competition. Now, who has fixed the competition? Us only. Can it be reduced by us? Yes, we can reduce the competition. And see, competition means this competition that you are talking about is the unhealthy competition. Like everyone want to do that same one thing only, like A for apple only. No, healthy competition is fine. Healthy competition is fine. Not a problem. Competition is always there, but it should be reduced to a healthy limit. And that is where I say, when you look at yourself, your natural abilities, what comes naturally to you, you start competing with yourself. Yesterday I did this much, today I will do this much more. When that comes, you are not bothered about anybody else. बाजू वाला घर में क्या हुआ, you don't bother. उसको 100% आया तो आने दो. I am happy that I know I'm going on the right track. I am not doing things because somebody told me to do, and when I'm not interested, why do I want to do it? But still I'm doing it because I'm getting forced. That will not come because I know myself. I am good at this, I will go ahead with this. I am not good with that, I may learn it later on, but I may not touch too much upon that. But that freedom, see, that's the thing with parents, especially right nowadays. I'm seeing a lot of parents, they're very confused. They're very, very confused. The situation has got more confusion into them. And the other issue is fear. God knows how that fear came in, but everybody's just afraid. You send them out to the park. Oh, park, afraid. Oh, nature, afraid. There's nothing actually wrong in nature. It's all in your head. That fear factor has to be reduced. It will not, you cannot eliminate the fear, because fear is a part of our, what do you say, survival instincts. But we can reduce on that fear. That is why I said the children are not the issue. The parents and the teachers are. We need to actually handle the parents and the teachers, through which the children can work at their pace and by themselves. That will be a better option, actually, even for the children. They'll be at least left alone after a point of time, saying that, okay, Baba, you do it. COVID situation amplified the fear, absolutely. To spread awareness of the benefits of such a learning experience among all stakeholders. Yeah, we need to spread awareness. That's why I said, no, when I started off, I looked at targeting children, but then I realized that children are not the issue. They take it up easily, but they are restricted by the teachers and parents. And again, the teachers are restricted by the other stakeholders above them. So we need to move up that way, or let's not keep up and down. Let's say we are all on the same planes, right? So we need to move on from there and hold that bunch and spread the awareness of how this could be much easier for them. And on a long term, see, if for example, if some management is looking like, this may not be profitable for me or something like that, on the long term, yes, it will be. People will come to you only, know कि हाँ, ये तो बंदा कुछ अच्छा काम कर रहा है, इसके कॉलेज में ही या इसके स्कूल में ही डालने का है मेरे बच्चे को. So they will do that automatically. They will come. On a long term, you're set for 4-5 generations, man, if you do that. Fear feelings are passed from parents. They pass their fears to teacher about child. Not entirely. The teachers have their own fears, and yeah, but yeah, they quite exchange their fear factors. Yeah, that's true. And the child, as I said, it imbibes it. It just goes on imbibing it. So the children are biased. If you touch a plant, you touch a vessel, you'll say, oh, gone case. The child is already, okay, don't touch anything, don't do anything. And then as a child grows up, that both the parents and the teachers are like, nalayak hai, kuch nahi karta hai. And that happens, yeah. So we've all seen that. So which are the schools using the technique learning that we would want to see? If you go for very completely nature-based learning kind of schools, you have a group of schools known as the forest schools. So they do very nature-based learning. Of course, in India, you don't have that type of a school. But something that comes closest to that school are things like schools like Shanti Niketan, as we saw yesterday, and you have like the Krishnamurti Foundation schools. Many of them are within nature, so that is the closest that they come. Otherwise, Marudam Farm School. Yes, Marudam Farm School, and you have People Grove School. You have all the Valley School, Rishi Valley, all those schools, KFI schools. Is it Godrej School follows that? Shweta, okay. That is knowing Godrej, yeah, possibly do that, yeah. So, but compared to the number of people, the number of schools that we have, see, there are just hardly 4 or 5 schools that we can think of, right? Shibumi, yes. Shibumi CFL in Bangalore, yeah. There are very few schools who do that. But again, their way of approaching it is slightly different. Yeah. So I guess we can wrap it up. Sharwari?
Yeah, the next session is starting now at
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
Yeah,
So
it's
the next session is is by Megha and Kangshi. So they are doing democratic choice of curriculum.
Yeah.
That is also going to be a really interesting session. And for Vishnu, what can I say? It's been really great to have you as a core part of entire process. Vishnu has been a pillar of support for Ruchira and me. He has been there from day one, and he was there for anything, whatever help we needed, he was there to help us in many ways, I would say. So thank you, Vishnu, for this wonderful session.
Thank you.
And it was really, great insights that you shared. We should, have you again and again, I would say. Acha, please share about your mentoring slots. When are they? I'll share links with participants.
Sure. I'll share it with you. You can just
Okay.
share
Okay,
it with them.
fine.
Yeah, I'll just check up once and I'll share it with you. Not a
Sure.
problem. Yeah.
So Vishnu is going to be mentor with us. He's mentoring with us.
Yeah.
And Vishnu, and yeah, I'm just saying that, okay, like us, Vishnu is also the part of this process. So you can, if you have any design related suggestions or anything, no, you can take it from Vishnu also. So this session is ending here, but this was the second last session. The next session is the last session till 5th of July. उसके बाद में जो भी sessions करने हैं उसके बाद में होंगे. अभी we'll start more on ideating and prototyping, right, Vishnu?
Yes.
Yeah. So
we'll be starting with your statements and ideating,
yeah,
and then we'll go into
right.
prototyping. Yeah.
So this week is completely reserved for the action. We
Yeah.
won't be taking you through so many learning sessions and gyan giving, any more gyan giving.
Yeah.
Let's end this session here. Please go to Kangshi's session now, Kangshi and Megha. They are waiting for you. I'll end this here and see ya, guys. See you in the mentoring sessions.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.